Welcome to another Trident Talks. I'm Gareth Davies and I help early and growth stage vendors build their go-to-market teams. Today, I'm joined by Mike Pozmantier, co-founder and CEO of Alpha Level, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the product and where SecOps AI is heading. Mike, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, your background, and what you're doing now at Alpha Level?
Sure. You told what I'm doing, but the company itself is built around, we're a security AI company. So we build analytics specifically for cybersecurity. Um, our first focus is on handling alerts. So we detect benign positives and duplicates and clean those out for SOCs. So right now, in our current deployments, we're getting up to 87% classification. So 87% of alerts, no, the SOC doesn't need to look at. The larger vision, though, and this is really where the evolution of the company comes from, um, is based on statistical methods for threat detection. So, my co-founder and I go back about 10 or so years now, a little bit more than that, actually. Time flies, getting old. Um, but the Josh had created a network anomaly detection tool at Los Alamos National Lab. I was at Department of Homeland Security, and my job was to actually go through the U.S. federal government research portfolio at all the different labs, Department of Energy labs, Department of Defense, National Science Foundation, find the things that had commercial viability and get those into the hands of the private sector. Josh's work on that anomaly detection tool, which I found in 2012, now that I know 13 years we've known each other now. Um, we ended up commercializing that in 2014. That Josh went with that out into industry and started deploying network anomaly detection and realized after a while that anomaly detection will find some great things that you can't find otherwise, but it will also create a flood of alerts. And so the technology kind of stalled with Ernst& Young, who had licensed it. Josh went on to a couple other places. We stayed in touch. In fact, I moved on from security a little bit and was working at a broader AI accelerator program at NSF after a while. But came back together a couple years ago. Said, "Hey, this alert problem, we got to solve that first and foremost. It's a big one. It's been killing people for decades. But by doing that, we can also enable ourselves to actually get back to the threat detection that was really what Josh had based his career on up to that point, and what I believe in after seeing where cybersecurity was at that time with all the rules-based systems and everything else. It was my view at that time that if we're going to keep up, we've got to have the kind of analytics that they were creating there and we were seeing in the federal government research space. Well, all these years later, we really haven't adopted those methods yet. Security's gotten a lot better in a lot of ways. Infrastructure's gotten better with cloud and ingest and all that kind of stuff, but we're still largely rules-based. And so our goal is to solve this this alert problem, start creating detections, but we're going to keep, we've got some great AI modelers. Josh, our head of research, Lee Somovich, who's also in London there, and um, and just basing on use cases, security use cases, keep rolling out new models. So our first one is helping the SOC with alerts. The next ones are going to be around improving those and improving that our function there and getting into threat detection so we can complete the picture.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool.
So that was a bit long-winded, but yeah.
It's okay, don't worry. You kind of mentioned that you touched on it there, right? You were in cyber, then you left, then you kind of returned. Did you always knew that you were going to come back into cyber? Like, what pulled you back into being a founder of a cybersecurity vendor?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had it, continued to have an interest in it. It just was my job focus took me into to other areas as I moved around and explored other things. At one point trying to create a venture studio that was maybe a little out in left field at the time and didn't get off the ground, and then getting into crypto and blockchain with a startup in San Francisco, coming back to the federal government. But always had an interest in doing a startup. Naturally have a lot of contacts with innovators and researchers in that space. And Josh and I had for years talked about doing something together. And what really pulled me back was Josh calling me in April or May a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, I've got an idea for the startup. Let's do this." And so, a couple months later, we had incorporated and we're off trying to figure it all out.
I wish I had that type of friend that would call me up and just be like, "Hey, do you want to go on a journey? Like, let's create a cybersecurity vendor
Yeah.
and let's kind of go for it." So, yeah, it's exciting nonetheless, right? Well, if we zoom out a little bit, like, can you tell us what a SOC vendor is and how you fit into that space?
Yeah, I mean, there's different aspects of what a SOC does, and we've got a wonderful advisor in Eric Block, who's on. Seems like he's on a podcast every other week, but Eric did an incredible job. Does an incredible job with the SOCs he's led at different places of actually metrics on what the activities in a SOC, where time is spent, and so you have different. You've got the alert triage area that they spend a ton of time in. You've got the IR parts of it where you've actually got you found a breach or you found something that really warrants investigation that they kick into action and so forth. So there's a lot of different activities that go into, and where we fit in, I think, is just providing ground truth on all that. So the alert refinery, our first product, take all the alerts in, look for patterns in those, and look for the things that are benign in there, look for the things that are duplicates, clear those out. We're clearing out the garbage there so that the SOC can look at really what's important. Because I think it's becoming more and more apparent. I think it was more anecdotally apparent, but there's more and more numbers now, surveys and other things where people are acknowledging that they're not looking at all their alerts from one reason or another. Either they're just missing them and not looking at them altogether, they're just ignoring them, or they're creating exceptions and exclusions on their detectors that are blocking alerts that in some cases they should be looking at. And so where we sit in there is clearing that out and making sure that the stuff that gets to the IR team, they're not wasting their time on stuff. We've cleared out all the garbage. We want the SOC analysts to actually enjoy their job. We don't want them to be doing repetitive actions every day, going, seen this alert, seen this alert, seen this alert, seen this alert. We want them to actually have interesting things to look at because we've cleared all that stuff out. So we're kind of sitting, a little bit further to the left where we wanted all of the alerts to come to us. We'll run our algorithms on it and classify those, spit them back into the workflow, and then whatever you want to do. If you've got some automated IR system or something else, your playbooks, everything else will feed into those. So yeah, I think that hopefully that gives you a clearer picture of where we are in that continuum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of noise currently around AI SOC, right? Like, I was
Yeah.
in Black Hat for Vegas, like I told you, and AI SOC was everywhere, right? And I would probably say that that is the niche within cyber that we're seeing more and more vendors come out of stealth with it, right? They're focusing on issues within that SOC space. Why do you think that we're seeing such innovation in this particular niche of cybersecurity?
Well, I think it's because we're seeing more and more alerts all the time. There's constantly new threats, new detectors. So everybody's been deluged with too many alerts for decades, and it's not getting better. And
Mhm.
so the only way to handle that is through some sort of automation. And we're seeing that with our customers that they have initiatives to build in automation. Now, doing that automation in the right way is important. You can't, if you don't have a good handle on what's a true positive, what's a false positive, what's a benign positive, et cetera, you can't really automate very well because you're going to end up taking wrong actions.
Mhm.
If you think something is a true positive and it's not, and you go shut something down on an automated system says, oh, something happened here, shut down that system, whatever it is, close that network port. You end up shutting down a system, and you're going to have some very angry people because you may have shut something down that you shouldn't have. So you really have to understand what's going on. But I think, um, this is a space that has a lot of activity and a lot of capable places for AI to come in and clean things up and do things that humans really don't need to be doing. And so it is ripe for that right now. But I think that what we're also seeing is more broadly. and this kind of gets into, I think, some of the evolution of the infrastructure that we've seen. But I think we're reaching a point where everybody's been collecting data for years and years and years. You have all this data everywhere. Okay, well, what is that? We always planning on doing something with it, and we've kind of reached this point now where AI has kind of put the idea of AI and what it's bringing has pushed people to say, okay, we should be getting knowledge from that data. We should be getting insights from that data. And I think in some cases the tools that they're trying to use are misguided, using, say, generative AI or LLMs to try to determine whether something's a true positive or a false positive. I don't think that's the best way of going about that, the best use case for that particular type of technology. But the definition of AI keeps rolling kind of over time to whatever seems to be the newest uh, thing, but I think AI is actually a series of tools. It's the holistic toolbox of different methods, whether it's unsupervised learning, supervised learning, all these other different methods that you have in there as well, and figuring out how to apply the right ones. But I do think that um, we have to get those systems deployed and deployed in the right ways, doing the right things, right tool for the right job to automate things and really make the lives of SOC better and actually with reducing risk for the enterprise.
Yeah, I think that you touched on it quite well there. Right? We've spent so many years, or the industry spent so many years collecting data, and now we're now in a phase where we're trying to use that data or making the most of it. Like you must have seen so much change over the last 5 years from not just in cyber, but specifically within SOC. Where do you think innovation is going to take this in the next 3 to 5 years? And it sounds like a short period of time, right? But with how fast innovation is happening in this space, between now and 5 years' time, I feel like we could almost be operating in a slightly different world in comparison.
I think we're starting to see the beginning of an entirely new operating model, not only in cyber, but in other areas where, you've got things like data lake and everything else, and this idea of data gravity, where you've got all the data available in one place. It's not, um, siloed or anything else, but you got it in one place and you can start bringing different tools to the data. We don't need to now keep copying the data for this SaaS tool or that SaaS tool or whatever. We
Yeah.
can simply bring things and attach them to the data. And that's really the entire model around our business. We don't want to do the engineering around ingest and storage and all that other kind of stuff. That's a lot of work. That's expensive for us.
Mm.
That takes us in a different direction on how we have to hire and our approach to things. And I think that's also where a lot of companies get tripped up because when you're trying to handle so many incidents or alerts or whatever in seconds or minutes or whatever, you have a massive engineering job, and with that engineering job means you're really focused on continuing to do that and maybe not some of the downstream things you're going to do with the data.
Mhm.
So as we move things into a place, data into a place where we don't have to worry about that, you've got ingest companies doing things like Ziggas or Databon, whatever. You've got the providers like Databricks that are making all this data lake easy to use. When you start stringing those things together, then you have companies like us that can just build use cases. We just keep building new algorithms, new models, and we bring those to the data. And for the customer, the person whose data is in that state, it makes it really easy to get best in class tooling on everything because if the data is in one place, everything becomes very modular. You can keep bringing things in. Okay, this didn't work for us. Okay, fine, get rid of it, get something else in. So it puts you in almost a vendor agnostic, completely a vendor agnostic environment where you can just get the things that work for you and get rid of the things that don't and just keep replacing them without much overhead.
Yeah.
So I really do think that that's where a lot of this stuff is going to go. And with that comes efficiencies in the SOC as well.
And I suppose Alpha Lab as a whole, you're almost a niche within a niche, aren't you? Like, yes, you're specific to SOC, but you're more specific to alert fatigue and focusing on the false positives, right? So I know that you're pretty early in your journey as a whole. What's industry feedback been like for you guys? What's your design partners saying on the product? Like, what's the overall message that's coming back to you?
Well, they've been happy with the numbers that we're getting, the alert classification, but they're also learning about themselves by the analytics we're doing as well. We've had a lot of insights on different types of alerts and and problems with different systems and how they handle alerts, which actually make it harder to do the type of analytics that we want to do and gain those true insights.
Mhm.
And so that's been, I think, an eye opener for some of our customers. And hey, we some of these systems aren't doing what we thought they did.
Yeah.
And so it's making, and I'm not gonna get too far into that because there's some secret sauce in there, um, but yeah, it's been interesting on our part. I think one of the more interesting things we that came from our design partners though is they said, hey, look, and this really gets into cyber as a whole. We're trying to detect bad guys, we're trying to lower risk. Well, they said, you know what, we're having to handle our alerts by putting all these exclusions on our detectors, and that's actually creating holes.
Mhm.
That's creating avenues for adversaries to get in. If you imagine your whole suite of detectors as a brick wall, every time you put an exclusion on there, you're taking out a brick because there's some avenue that they might slide in under that exclusion. And so what we did was we actually detuned some of their detectors, took the exclusions out to see where we how we did on the versus what they were doing with their tuning. And right now we're still working with them on deconflicting a few things, but right now the numbers show that I believe that we only increased their alert volume by something like 0.05%. It was a very small amount of alerts and those were things that we disagreed on some of their classifications on. I think it was out of thousands of alerts, it was in the tens that we disagreed on, and we found a handful that I believe the number is about seven or eight that by our view, they should have actually investigated. So you can see where, that value is coming in, where we're able to handle all the alerts, you're able to get rid of your exclusions and really keep rolling detectors out. We'll keep doing the stuff on there. There's other I can keep going. There's more things we're finding, but so far they're really liking it. And what we're hearing from, most of the people that we're talking to is simply that they know they need this type of they have automation initiatives, numbers they have to hit. We're helping them get there. They need to scale in some cases, MSSPs, or we're going to need to scale their business where you can't keep scaling by hiring. There's only so much workforce and strong analysts that you can keep hiring out there. So they need technology to help enable their ability to scale as well. And so we're helping them with that by making their existing workforce more efficient.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. And I know obviously every SOC vendor and every security vendor will have tools and promises, right? So what's your differentiator, like perhaps within the tech stack, service model, how you measure success? Like what makes Alpha Level truly differentiators and yeah, different to the rest and what you guys are doing in the market?
Yeah, I mean, from what we're seeing in the marketplace, a lot of and I still think the market is sifting itself out on where everything sits. There are companies that are, claiming to do the alert stuff that, handle alerts and get great numbers and things like that. We're not hearing a complete picture in our view from that. Like, okay, what's your error rate, for instance?
Okay.
Ours is very, very low. But when I think that you know, our biggest differentiator is that we have the capability of building our own models. We have AI experts. We have people that have been working in this for decades, and we're building our own. We know how to build them. We're not building wrappers around foundation models, for instance. If we ever need to go in that direction, we can. It's easier for us to do that than for somebody else to come in our direction and try to figure out how to build their own statistical models the way we are. So I think that's really the big differentiator is our expertise in doing that. But I want to really emphasize that simply handling alerts is but the first use case that we're doing. We're going to be doing more threat detection. We really want to complete the picture. We think handling the alerts is really it's kind of table stakes to do it. It's obviously a big problem, but it's the first thing we need to solve to enable us to do more to complete the picture on doing detections and everything else so that the SOC gets a really clear picture on, okay, this is all garbage. These are the things that you really need to focus on. This is the hair on fire alert that is showing somebody's in your network.
Yeah, I think that you'll have to correct me on the phrasing, but I think the phrase that you use to describe the business is instead of looking for the needle in the haystack, you burn the haystack to find the needle, right?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now is we're getting
Yeah,
rid of all the stuff you don't need to look at and leaving behind the things you do. And we're
yeah.
gonna and as we build in more detections, obviously that reinforces those what
Yes.
those deals actually are as well.
I think just as a tagline, I think that sums up what you guys are doing brilliantly, right? It's very clear and obvious what you guys do. There's no ambiguity around kind of what you guys do. So yeah, I love it. You touched on your the kind of the partners that you've been using so far, right? You mentioned MSSPs. I think you're in with end users and stuff at this current stage. But what what is your ideal customer profile then? Who do you see your product being most valuable or most useful for? Is it the MSSPs that have got L1 SOC analysts drowning in alerts, or is it the end user space?
It's both. So MSSPs are really good partners of ours. They have obviously a big problem with alerts. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And then the enterprise, so large enterprise, and maybe even certain medium-sized enterprise. But the enterprise that's got a lot of tools creating a lot of alerts. They've got their own SOC. Um, they're drowning in the same things. But every large enterprise that has the standard tooling that you're going to see pretty much anywhere, EDR, et cetera, et cetera, and their analysts are trying to handle all those alerts. I think the value prop is largely the same. We're getting more efficiency, and that has different value to the MSSP versus the enterprise, but it's doing the same thing.
Yeah, okay, fine. And is the product is it just for Sentinel? Can it integrate with Splunk? Like
We've
what
got
tools
we've
are
got
you
a
able to
Splunk
integrate
app.
with?
Yeah, so we have a Splunk app. We do Sentinel, but we're really agnostic to that. We can take the alerts from wherever. Those are just and we integrate whatever workflow. So in some cases, people are handling their alerts in Sentinel. They're handling their alerts in Splunk. So we can take the alerts from those, do our analytics on it, and put them back with our labels on those alerts so you can sort the queue and see these are things I should deprioritize. These are the things I need to look at right now. But we can output to pretty much anything. It's just APIs, bucket sharing, blob sharing, service principals, things like that. So it's just whatever you want to connect us to, and we can take the alerts.
Cool. And I suppose finally, if there's talent out there now what that's watching this and then wondering if kind of what they specialize in would be applicable to you guys, is there any sort of talent that you're always on the lookout for or happy to have a conversation with?
I mean, right now we're not looking for anybody. I've got you know, we're we're 6 people right now. We will be hiring hopefully after another round. But we have, I know you're in the talent space, so I know people are looking at that. But we have a really good network, and we have people lined up that we want to hire already as we move forward. But at some point we'll be. I think that one of the areas that we will be looking for talent and that we may not have a direct line on is, some of the sales and marketing side, maybe the engineering and tech side, research side. We have deep connections to those, and we have people coming to us all the time. We get quite a bit of inbound.
Yeah, good. And we always recommend, right, especially early stage vendors, cash flow is king at this very start, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely the first thing you should be doing is utilizing your network, bringing in people that you know, that you trust, that you like, and that can be real value adds to the business, right? So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
blame you. Have you got an idea on timescale when you guys are looking to raise next? Is it going to be before the end of 2025 or is it going to be mid
I
2026?
I think we're looking at the beginning of 2026.
Cool.
We're focused on building up our customers right now, and we want to be in position with all of that before we raise
Awesome.
again.
And
So
will that be your seed round?
we've done a pre-seed, so yeah, it'll be a seed round, or however people classify them different ways. But if you want to just classify them chronologically, it's a seed. Some people might call it an A, depending on size. So yeah, so we'll see where we end up, but it's our next round, whatever it is. It's a venture round.
Yeah, cool. And where can folks find you? Like, have you got any events coming up? If you want to
Uh,
famously plug
we're
anything that you're doing at the minute.
we're doing smaller events right now. So I think mostly we're doing like regional CISO type events. I'm flying out tomorrow to go to San Antonio for a CISO dinner there. We're going to be doing something in Denver in October. I'll be in Philadelphia in October for a similar thing, and then Chicago. I know there's Black Hat Europe coming up in London in December. I think we've got one person in Glasgow and one person in London, and we might have them. Well, certainly have the Lee there from bouncing around, I'm sure, and maybe have Aiden come down from Glasgow and be at Black Hat. So
Yeah, I think Black Hat Europe is probably the largest event on our continent, right, for the year.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely if you are going to be coming down, if you fancy flying over and you want me to show you the ropes around London, I'd be yeah, more than happy to do so. But
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what there is. We might set something up, and it might be
yeah,
more than just our locals over there. I've
yeah,
been to
yeah.
London once, had a great time, but it'd be great to be shown around by somebody that knows the city.
Cool. Well, listen, Mike, I appreciate your time and thanks for jumping on to talk to us about Alpha Level.